10.2, we're heading off to the Emerald Dream. We're going to get some Emerald Dream stuff, right? We're going to see more of the green dragonflight, all of that. Maybe they're onto something. Maybe Telius and Avital are onto something when they say Druids for all races. 10.2 is the best chance we'll ever get. Interesting. Let's see what they have to say about this.
This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Oh yeah.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here. Today we are talking World of Warcraft Dragonflight patch 10.2. We are talking Druids, and we are talking every single playable race in the entire game. Yes. Because this video is about how
The one thing about Druids, though, is it takes so much. It's not just like what you just said, Pepper. You want a gnome paladin. That's not that hard to do. You know, they just give gnomes the ability to be paladins. But every time you give a new race a druid, class, you got to create forms for that race, right? You got to create all new forms for the entire, you got to give them a bear form, give them a flying, so on, a cat, all that shit. And it has to be, specific to their race. So there's actually a lot more work that goes into giving a race the ability to become a druid than any other class in the game, which is why I think we haven't seen this yet.
Time for every race in the game to be able to play as Druid.
How a Mechanome Druid would be weird.
Expansion to be announced.
What are you talking about? Mechanome Druid's easy. It's a transformer. It literally would just transform. It'd even make the sound. All right, that was a horrible imitation. But yeah, it's easy. They'd just be transformers, no doubt. If only they had the resources. Yeah, I know, right? What's up, the Raging Monk?
Weeks would be the
Blood Elf and
perfect,
Orc would be easy.
Only time to do it in a way that makes it fit lore-wise and also what Druid forms.
Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome to our Scourge.
All those races would look like, because that's fun and I deserve it, okay? So join us as we explain how and why 10.2.
Now that I think about it, Mechanome would be the coolest one of them all.
Okay, go. World of Warcraft is currently going through a big change in terms of philosophy, and a good one if you ask me, which is opening up the game in a more user-friendly way than it has ever been.
Undead might be easy. You just put some decay on all the animal forms. You'll be okay.
Dragonflight is objectively the most alt-friendly expansion of all time by absolute miles, and with no artifact power style treadmill to fall behind on, keeping any character up to date is as simple as leveling the dude and gearing the dude as it should be. But this new player friendliness, and dare I say it, yes I'm gonna say it, respect for the player's time, manifests in other ways too. Rep requirements removed from allied races, automatic flying training as you level, transmog tracking, which is the best thing ever, and most important for this video, slowly but surely unlocking the race class restrictions, moving steadily towards a world
I will say, before we get deeper into this video, there is one drawback to giving every single race in the game the ability to become Druids. And I realized it when I read Cam Shady's Volpera comment. Furries will win. That's it. Like the last bastion. Anything that was holding back every single furry in the world from playing World of Warcraft, that's it. They'd officially all play WoW. It'd become a bastion for furries, to come enjoy themselves and come again, as the other meaning of that word. So I'm just taking this. We might not want to do this. That's all I'm saying. We might want to hold back. Yeah, come again, exactly.
Where whichever race you pick, every
let's just see, anyways.
Game is open to you to play as. If you had told the player base just a few years ago that they would soon be able to play as a gnome hunter, or a night elf mage, or an orc priest, or a Tauren
could be a gateway
rogue,
drug to
then,
cat girls.
well, firstly, there would have been a mass online run on the in-game services to reserve the name Invisible, obviously, but also the forums would have been in meltdown about how this flew in the face of established and important in-game world building and spat on the tits of any kind of player immersion, which is probably why it never happened, and fair enough. But these days, honestly, everyone's a bit more chill with the idea, as the current mantra of play the game how you want becomes more and more important. Just give everyone all the customizations, the player can explain all those high elf options in their own headcanon. Who cares? And that's awesome, although admittedly there are still some race class combos which on the face of things are so antithetical to the lore that it still seems a step too
forget.
far to indulge in, like, well, Drakthir anything. Don't worry, Drakthir, we're going to sort you out in this video, I promise. Just about
Drakthir.
anything and demon hunters, but other more specific combos too, like Forsaken Paladins. Because why on earth would there be Forsaken Paladins? That's a human thing, and it's not like the Forsaken used to be human. Oh, okay, well, fine.
We'll
but
see,
using
Raging.
the light hurts Forsaken, like physically burns them, which is why they could never be Paladins or priests. Oh, for goodness sake. Well, fine.
Oh god, yeah. Undead priests, I'm not gonna lie, it's interesting that if you read the book, the prelude to Shadowlands, you know, before we got fucked with Shadowlands, we were excited about Shadowlands, and there was the book about the priest, the undead priest, and the talk about how it kind of burned when he used the light a little bit. It was an interesting dive into what a priest or an undead priest experiences when they're casting spells.
Draenei Warlocks then. That's an obvious one, because the Fel destroyed their entire homeworld, and the Burning Legion specifically
Demon
chased
Hunters.
the poor bastards across the galaxy for 10,000 years, resulting in unimaginable horror and death, and there is no way Draenei would ever dabble with the Fel. That's insane. It's just a huge nope for the entire race. Except, apparently, it no longer is, because as you are probably aware, Draenei and Lightforged Draenei now can play as Warlocks as of 10.1.5. A class combo that you would imagine would be nailed on, never going to happen, is here. So how do Blizzard think they are going to get away with this? Seriously. Game director Ian Hazacostas has addressed the issue of seemingly contradictory class race combos in recent interviews for 10.0.7, where he said that the goal is always to be adding more combinations, but that the team always want to give an explanation for it in-game before introducing it. And he used the example of Goblin Druids needing a plausible in-game narrative set up for it to make sense. Hold on to that thought.
What?
And I know many of us will have
said
dismissed
that. He said Goblin Druids.
that answer at first as an evasion of sorts, like, yeah, we'd love to do that, but we need to have content in game to explain it, and that'll cost a raid tier, so basically no, it'll never happen, cope nerds. But
I think instead of a cat, goblins would have to turn into a rat. I think that's the only way to do it properly, because that's what they are. That's what they are. Time is money, friend.
Known better, because Dragonflight has been chock full of pleasant surprises from the start, and here's another. With the recent Warlock unlocks, that is exactly what Blizzard did. Not only enabling some potential weird and contradictory class race combos, but making a solid effort to explain those combos in-game too, in the form of a not insubstantial Warlock quest chain that sees players heading to the Darkmoon Fair under invitation of a mysterious teacher and encountering examples of those new Warlock races, being able to talk to them, hear their stories, and ultimately work with them to win the day. It comes with new Warlock demon customizations too, and probably not entirely coincidentally, upcoming Manari customizations for Draenei characters, which honestly you'd imagine might also open the way up for Draenei demon hunters at some point. And, you know, that's awesome. That's really great. One of the main characters you interact with in the quests, in fact, is a Lightforged Draenei, probably the hardest sell for Warlocks lore-wise in the game. And just like Ian promised, there was some in-game explaining to do to make universal Warlocks
there is? I didn't
happen.
see this.
Almost universal, sorry guys. And they did it! Yay! And let's be real, if you can explain Lightforged Draenei Warlocks, you can kind of explain anything. And with that in mind, let's look at the example Ian actually gave in that interview. The Goblin Druid. Another hard sell on the level of Draenei Warlocks for sure. The way that they are written, goblins generally are as far from being in touch with nature.
They hate the environment. They literally shit on the environment. Have you guys ever seen the Goblin Zone in Orgrimmar? It's disgusting. They could give two freaking shits about the environment. And now they're gonna be druids? Backwards ass
as
shit.
you can imagine a fantasy race to be. They are industrialists, resource strippers, profit chasers. Destroying the environment around them is kind
Remember
of
what they did with Azerite,
thing.
man? They
but
ripped that shit out of the cooch of Azeroth.
Because like Demon Hunter, it's so specific. In Warcraft lore as it stands right now, the original Druids were Taurens, who Cenarius just kind of hung out with, teaching stuff to back in the day. Then he got chummy with the Night Elves and taught them Druid stuff so that they could become protectors of the Emerald Emerald Dream, and that's generally what we've seen Druids as since. Even though over time we have seen glimpses of other ways that races have embraced the Druid class fantasy. Trolls do it via their worship of the lower, seemingly with no input from Cenarius at all. Gilnean Druidic powers are referred to as the Old Ways, and their proponents referred to as Harvest Witches, and it's possible that those are the roots of Kultiran Druids too, since that entire population were originally Gilnean settlers. However, these days Kultiran Druids seem much more rooted in the Drust.
Drust,
basically it is already established that different cultures find their way into Druidism in their own ways. But, you know, goblins suddenly being able to turn into bears would need some groundwork. I agree. That's reason one why Druids for All are a tough sell.
Yeah.
Another reason is that Druids flat out take more...
You could probably explain it, you know, the way Pepper mentioned, you know, you just talk about a minority of goblins that have kind of gone against the way of goblins. Look at all that pollution. Oh my god.
Work than any other class to enable
the greenhouse gas
races.
producers of
Currently,
Azeroth.
there are 10 races that can't play Shaman, 15 that can't play as Paladin, and 16 that can't play Druid. From a development side, it seems easy enough to add Paladins. It's just animations and a cool shiny light mount for each one too. Shamans need unique totems, which often work as storytelling tools in themselves. Like, we can see from their totems exactly how goblins are harnessing the power of the elements by force rather than any kind of genuine connection. A little side note here, but interestingly, there is evidence that Shaman are being prepared as the next race that will become universal. Almost universal, sorry. Which would make perfect sense given the primalist themes of Dragonflight. But Druids are a whole different kettle of swim form fish, because Druids need forms. Each race needs a travel form, a flight form, a swim form, a cat form for feral, a bear form.
It's easily the hardest class to give to any race. They got to create all the forms for it. Man, imagine the Mechanome transforming into like a submarine for their aquatic form. God. This video has taken a turn. I did not expect this to become a justification for Mechanomes being the coolest Druid class, Druid race in the game. But here we are.
Tanking and a Moonkim form for balance. Maybe even a unique tree form if you're feeling especially
Starscream becoming like a fucking
112 new forms for Blizzard to create and rig for Universal Druids. On top of that, Bear, Cat, and Moonkin need very specific ability animations for gameplay too. Two big problems for sure. But hey, that's what this video is all about, right? So let's look at the lore issue first, because as it happens, 10.2 looks like it might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for this one to be completely solved. At the time of writing, we don't know the setting or story for patch 10.2 of Dragonflight.
Travel form, they'd have to become like a car or a motorcycle, or they could go with, you know, the Beast series of Transformers, and it literally becomes like a mecha cheetah or something.
We can make some pretty educated guesses. Since the beta, it has seemed clear that the Emerald Dream is set to be a big theme in some major patch or other. We
Volpera Druids are
released, and most people basically agreed.
That's where the furries will be.
Weird for us, that's what I remember. There is an official portal to the Dream in the Emerald Grove in Anaran Plains. There's a new world tree growing in the Dream that certainly looks like it might be plonked off the coast of the Isles there. There is the promise in the Dawn of the Infinite epilogue that Viranoth and Firak are planning to attack the nascent tree in the Dream, and there are new world events on the 10.17 PTR called Dream Surges, where Druids of the Flame are out causing trouble, and you know, it just very much looks like 10.2 is the Emerald Dream.
Yeah, it's going to be the Green Dragonflight Emerald Dream
home of the Druids. Of course, we've all been to the Dream before, regardless of whether we are Druids or not. In Legion, we helped fight back the void corruption of the Emerald Nightmare, rescued Cenarius himself, and at the end, we all got to hang out in a perfect little patch of it before heading back to our Order Halls to spend all our juicy artifact power. So we are, all of us player characters, categorically not just familiar with the Dream, but recognized heroes and saviors of it at this point. 10.2 though seems like it could go even further. If we really are going to have an entire patch set in the Emerald Dream, with potentially a whole zone opened up for players to play and quest and grind in, hopping in and out of it at will, if the story of the patch culminates in us fighting back Viranoth and Firak's attack on the world tree in the dream, I mean, we go beyond just being useful and valued heroes at that point, right? We are de facto honorary druids. At this stage, it would be faintly ridiculous if, say, a goblin player character were to go up to Cenarius and be like, yo, I really like all this druid stuff, you know? Can you teach me? And him be like, nah, dude. Don't get me wrong. Thanks for the multiple saves and for protecting the Emerald Dream.
Maybe people start to convert. Yeah, I could see this. I could actually see this playing out in the story now. He's making a good point here. This could totally play out in the story. Who would mechanomes be? What would they be for their tree form? Oh, God, I don't know. Yeah, what could they be? An ambulance? I have no idea.
From attack, which is literally the whole reason I created Druids, by the way, and helping to birth a literal world tree into Azeroth. And you do look really good in all that Emerald Dream gear that you got from the raid and the world content, where, again, and I can't say this enough, you performed the exact role of a druid in protecting the Emerald Dream when all other hope seemed lost. But your kind just aren't in touch enough with this kind of stuff for it to work out, you know? No, far more likely he would be like, holy shit, yes, you have been amazing. All of you have. And although obviously not every one of your entire race with its rich tapestry of personalities and motivations would make great druids, you and those like you objectively would. You've proven that with Belzon, so yeah, consider yourselves blessed by me, Cenarius, the guy who makes druids. There will never be a better blanket law justification for universal druids. Probably.
He's right.
It's all there.
This is the time. If it's going to happen, this is the time.
In mind, let's tackle the
This is the best chance we'll ever have at it.
And the most fun one, those forms. Definitely the most fun part of this discussion is what forms the different races of druid would take. And just like goblin shaman and their totems, these forms can tell a story of their own too. There are two main categories that new druid races and their forms fall into: variations on the classics and unique concept. We see both of these in the game already, even in the newest druids. High Mountain Tauren, for example, follow the variations on a classic rule that Nels, Tauren, Trolls, and Worgen did before them. They basically all use the standard animal forms, but with some small fun embellishments which signal which race they were originally. Night Elf dangly jewelry, tusks on everything for Trolls, moose antlers for the High Mountain. You get the idea. And I think
there are some races that are pretty easy. You just give a little hint of what the race is, but you use the other druidic forms. He's right about that. Not every race needs a completely redone druid form, and they can always retroactively go back and like add more detail later on. But for this patch, they could certainly get a lot of races into druid forms just by adding, like you said, antlers or a little necklace or something.
Largely, there would be races that would fit into this category if universal druids happened. It's hard to think of any unique forms that humans would need, for example. Just give the standard bear and Boomy the odd dash of human fashion.
True.
Like, I don't know, neckerchief
Humans
or
wouldn't need
alliance
anything
tattoos
crazy.
or Beats headphones or whatever. A horse for travel form, we're good to go. And likewise, blood elves. You can find fan art concepts for these all over the internet.
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm right here. This is the problem. This is furry drawings. These are furry drawings, people. I'm worried about this. This could be the beginning of the end. I'm letting you guys know right now. As if Moonguard didn't already have fucking problems.
And the best are basically just standard bear models, but with a bit more orange and red and with blood elf style markings. Although there is a bit more fun to be had here too. A phoenix for flight form would be great. You'd want your cat form to be a golden lynx of some sort. Yep. And for Moonkin, well, I'll save that one for a bit if you don't mind. And just to say here, be under no illusions, I know this is a ton of work already. I'm not pretending this is something that wouldn't be a major undertaking for the dev team. I think it would be an outrageously difficult job. In reality, it would probably be way more work than I think even then. And we haven't even got to the really fun bit yet, because Zandalari and Kultirans come under the second category, the full-on unique concepts with unique forms.
If it comes out, Moonguard will go crazy.
Yeah, Dinomancers, and Kultirans don't even turn into living things. Rather, they inhabit kind of animated wicked just effigies, and it's awesome, but this ain't your daddy Cenarius' druid gang, you know? These forms are important to signify what a Kultiran druid even is, and there are other races that I think would need similar attention. Let's start with a really fun one. Orcs and Maga orcs.
Okay.
Now, you might be thinking, well, orcs are a classic race, like humans. Surely they would fall into
the... I think instead, I mean, obviously their travel form is going to be a wolf. It has to be. That's a guarantee. It has to be a wolf. Now, speculating on the others, I mean, what would they could definitely be some kind of You know, some kind of big orky bear. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what he
Variations on the
says.
classic category, right? No,
Kodo
actually,
bear, yeah.
Because orcs, don't forget, aren't from Azeroth. Their origin is a whole different planet with different wildlife and nature, and I think it'd be really cool to see that
yeah.
represented in
All
their
the inhabitants of
druid forms.
Nagran.
So for travel form, obviously you go Trusty Wolf or Talbot if you wanted something chunkier. Flight
you
form
gotta have
would
the
be
wolf.
Windrock, so far so obvious. But then I would have their cat form be a mother chuffing Saberon, which
Little
seems
flesh
wild,
go.
but this isn't even a new concept. In WoD, there was a feral druid talent called the Claws of Shivala, which turned you into a Saberon. There was even a
Just an
different
orc with
version for
chest
each
hair.
druid race. So this isn't my idea, it's Blizzard's. And this is exactly the kind of unique flavor that we want from our new druid races, please. And I think now is a good time to bring up a criticism that many of you have no doubt thought of. Recognizable class silhouettes in PvP. Like, what does one race's cat form and only one race's cat form looking completely different from the others do
Yeah,
for the
it does kind of fuck you up in PvP. It does. You got to be able to know what form they're in.
competitive scene where split-second
have to
recognition
make
is
flashcards.
everything? It's a good question, and here's my answer. I don't care. Sorry, I just don't give a shit. In my
That cat
opinion, the
picture's
game should
creepy.
never not have something cool because of PvP concerns. The end. Look, worst case, if it really is that big a deal, disable the Saberon form in PvP and have them appear as a troll cat. Who cares? Not PvP players, I'm sure. And that is the beginning and the end of the class silhouette discussion for me. And with that in mind, for a bear form, I'd give Orc a Gron.
Oh,
yep,
that's actually
seriously,
cool.
shrunk down
That's actually cool. This would be a pretty badass bear form.
to a bit more of an acceptable player size, but orcs are naturally evolved from Gron anyway.
That's
it
true.
totally makes sense to me that they were
But the thing about druids is, aren't they supposed to turn into animals or something animalistic? Aren't these guys technically are like a humanoid race, aren't they? That's kind of weird if they're transforming into a humanoid race.
harness it as a form for tanking. And
So now it's
they
2025
use the same
and we're all
rig
orc
as the
druids.
werebear tank form, so it doesn't even change a silhouette. It's
Yeah,
just
I don't know
very
about that
And Moonkin form, look, I admit Moonkin is the trickiest form for most of these races. It is the most lore
I guess Moonkin are also humanoid, aren't they?
specific form that druids
They are
have.
from
And there's
nature, yeah, so
absolutely no
maybe it's not
reason
as
why
weird as I
every
thought.
single race couldn't just have a standard moonkin. There's nothing wrong with that. Glyph of Stars also exists, but I think we can do better with orcs. Balanced druids harness the moon and sun for their power. What bestial race on Draenor is really into one of those two things? Yep, that's right. I would make the orc balance form an Arakoa. They are all about the sun in the same way that Moonkin are all about the moon.
Yeah.
So it fits. It's very cool. It's basically decided.
see that.
Actually, I'd have Blood Elves use Arakoa as
That's
their
right. These
balance
are
form
humanoids too. I don't know why I even said that. I guess it
too,
doesn't
by
matter.
the way. They have strong connections to Outland, and they
Just a
love the
recolored
sun,
chicken.
and you could totally make an argument that they would have that embodiment in the back of their collective psyche as a result. I really wanted to find a way to use an ogre form for orcs somewhere, but they tend to dabble in arcane magic, so it didn't really fit, sorry. Also, another side note quickly, you'll have noticed that I'm not going to give swim forms for any of these because I can't be bothered. Give me your 16 different swim forms in the comments below.
Gotta
if you
go with
love
the
swim forms
submarine
so much,
mechanome,
But
submarine
don't be
mechanome.
disappointed, I'll make it up to you with the Void Elves, because Void Elves are pretty unique in their alignments, and I know.
But MV
you
panties, they already do
really
that.
want to just use
The Moonkin and everything, the Boomkin, those are already other races.
Void creatures for their forms. Void Stalker
Yeah,
travel
this is
form,
easy.
Void Worm, Flight Shadowhound cat form, Void Walker bear, and like an ethereal for balance or some shit. And
You can't do this because we need ethereal playable races. You can't give them ethereals. You can't do that. He's crossing a line now. He's crossing a line. Ethereal's got to be reserved to eventually become a playable race. You cannot give him as a fucking druid form. I'd be very
I agree,
disappointed.
that would be cool, obviously, but I think it's far more interesting and, well, appropriate for a Void-themed druid to take forms from the Emerald Nightmare instead. So, I'd have their bear form be the standard corrupted artifact look. There are some really cool Nightmare corrupted bird models for flight form, a slightly recolored Shadow Runner for travel form, and then I
with a
get
gnome
a
arm
bit
sticking
out
out.
there,
No, all their
because
flesh
for
bits go
balance,
inside. That's
you
what happens.
could could use the nightmare-infected Fallen Moon feather that you find in Val'sharah for sure. Or how about a Shadow Stalker? It doesn't really fit, but when else are you going to get to use a Shadow Stalker?
Maybe.
And likewise for cat form, okay, hear me out, all right? I'd go Nightmare Spider. And I know what you're thinking.
Oh,
they
damn.
aren't cats, and you're right. They're not. Fair point. But I
That'd be
don't
kinda
think
cool.
they are too different functionally. I can
would be
totally
kinda cool.
believe that they would go invisible and stalk. I can believe that they have sharp claw-like legs that can apply swipes and rips and bleeds.
Yeah,
and I believe
that
they
does
could give you
make-
a
this
nasty
form does
bite
make
with
sense,
those
actually.
massive mandibles. So for me, they fit. And here's another thing you may have noticed. Yes, lots of these suggestions I'm going to make in this video are not out of the box ready. Some, especially the older models, will need extra animations, especially for bear, cat, and balance forms. But that's okay, because this is a concept exploration rather than an I solved the development issue thing, because it's fun,
Right.
okay? And I deserve some fun. I love this as a Void Elf concept. And what about Vulpera? Another race with great unique potential.
No, don't do it. Blizzard, don't do it. This is the end. This is the end, boys. I knew it. I knew Vulpera were a gateway drug. This is it. We're going full furry. Yep, this is how it ends, boys. This is how the great World of Warcraft, RIP 2004 to 2023. Let's see how the world ends.
I've tried to take
Here we
their
go.
forms from the deserts of Vol'dun because that's what they'd know. Travel would have to be the alpaca, or if that's just a bit too much, and I get it, how about the ringhorn? Scavenger or buzzard for flight form. I'd have a howler hyena thing for a cat form, and yeah,
Sure.
I know, but I see no reason why not to treat big cats and dogs essentially interchangeably for these forms. They all totally fit. But
Worried
it's
about with the bear form.
where we can have some real
It's gonna
fun,
be-
right?
I'm worried about the bear.
Sauralisk is an obvious choice, but that would need lots of new animations, as would Krollusk. I even toyed with the idea of giving them a massive crab before I suddenly thought, you know, what big tanky-like beast lives in the swamps just next door? How about a river beast tank form? Yeah, I know. How do they swipe and create bleeds? I don't
God.
care. They're river beasts. They automatically win. Granted, this is game breaking because
This is
just
not
like
good.
Tuskar, you can't kill a river beast, so you're essentially indestructible. Okay, fine. You can have Krollusk if you must. And for balance form, I got a feeling lots of you will want me to be super cheeky here and say Sethrak, but even I couldn't make that fit. I'm sorry. But here's a wild idea: a desert-dwelling race who worship the sun. Is it totally beyond the realms of possibility to use
The hippo is gonna
Amphet
be- is gonna
for their
be-
balance?
This is too
Granted,
much. Because of all, you know, part of being a furry is they love, you know, to change their size and shape, and the thickness of this, the thick daddy thickness, it's not good.
Now, I like this idea. I know that they are Titan constructs,
scared.
but hey, Moonkin were made by a loon, and she
Azami,
might
what's up?
be a Titan. Maybe. Tell me why I can't use Amphet below, because I'm keeping them. Forsaken are potentially a tough one, because honestly,
just make everything the
really,
same but
if I was
decaying?
doing this purely for the lore, I think the way that you make this work best is that you either
Skeletons.
give them Kultiran Drust forms. You could equally use those forms for humans as well, to be honest. Or you could be really wild and use
You could. Oh shit. Okay, hold on. But you could just reskin the Drust forms because they already have the teeth, you know, exposed and everything, and they have some skeletal looking shit. Instead of wood, this would just be bones, and it's easy.
You could equally use those forms for humans.
I think that's
as
what they
well,
would
to be
do.
honest. Or you could be really wild and use
Sam knows
Shadowlands Ardenweald type forms, which
Not a
I
furry.
think you could make a really interesting lore case for with its connection to the dream, but that's not what anyone wants from their
No,
Forsaken
no.
Druids, is it? You want sickly gazelles.
Exactly.
You want undead eagles.
Yep.
You want plague cats and blighted bears. You
Yep.
want that good old-fashioned zombie shit. And I
That's
think
what it's
you
gonna be.
deserve that good
what it
old-fashioned
would be.
zombie shit. I'm going to give you that zombie shit. I would only ask that you hear me out for balance form, because yeah,
Wow.
you could have a zombie boomy, or you could
The Kultiran
have
forms
a
are badass.
feral fungus. Does it make sense that this little chap would be blasting moon and sun magic everywhere? No, but neither does any of the zombie druid stuff, so who cares? It would be awesome. I want my undead mushroom boomy. Pandas are a really fun one, and very believable, because obviously
I mean,
a crane
everything from
travel
Pandaria,
form, a
yeah.
phoenix or
Easy.
serpent flight form.
That's pretty cool. That is actually pretty cool. A serpent flight form. Pandas have suddenly risen to the top of badass druids. If that
There's
happens,
like a million different tigers for cat
Yeah,
form, but I think
easy.
it really hits gold.
put the anal beads around the neck too. You know, the monk anal beads, and you're golden. This would be a great monk form,
With bear form, which
like the monk
I mean,
racial mount.
It's gotta be a turtle, right? It's got tanky bits, sharp shreddy jaws
I mean,
and
class
claws.
mount.
It's not unlike the Zandalari
Yeah.
Dino Bear in feel. It's
You
perfect.
could do this.
So
This is good.
perfect that it's not the last time I'm going to
Panda's
turn to
easy.
the
Yeah,
turtle
there's so many
panda in this
animals in
video. And for
Pandaria
balance,
that you
sod it. I'm having a Pandaren spirit because they rock. And frankly, it's Steve Danuza's job to work out why I can have a Pandaren spirit for balance form. I trust you, Steve. Make this work. One of the races I found most interesting to do this video for was the Nightborn, because there is plenty of interesting wildlife around Suramar to choose from. Manafangs or Sunrunners for the travel form, Moonshade Owls for flight, Mana Saber for cat form. Obviously, I used the
that's easy.
Lowland Mana Shell for
Oh my-
another turtle tag.
What is this? I've never even seen this in game. Holy shit! This is the coolest looking turtle I've seen. A mana shell? Where were these? I played Legion throughout the entirety of the expansion. I never saw these guys. Holy crap!
And for balance, yeah, I know this is usually where we go off track a bit, and this is no
Yeah, this is a
exception.
very cool
How
looking
about
turtle.
a Thorn Witch? It really reminds me of the Zandalari form because it's all twitchy and bird-like and basically completely random. So why not? I think it could be cool. Steve, it could be cool, okay? Dwarf is obviously super easy. Ram, eagle, wolf, or bobcat for cat
Easy,
form. And
easy.
I know you all expect me to say bear for bear form, and fair enough, it is a bear after
Yeah,
all.
just
But
make
no,
it an
I
Arctic
want
bear.
a Yeti bear form in here somewhere,
That's
and
not good.
dwarves are the perfect
too
bunch
crazy.
to make it happen. All of these dwarf examples are going to need up-resed models, of course, because most of them are older than my graduation sweater at this point. For dwarf balance form, you could absolutely just go standard Moonkin with a big beard, but can I suggest an earthen defender? Like the orcs with Grom,
That would be
essentially
cool.
evolving back on their timeline a bit. Can I do that? You're going to tell me I can't do that, and you may be right, but where's your video? That's my question to you. Where's your video? And the Dark Iron will follow this theme, actually.
Yeah, Dark
Mag
Iron,
Mammoth
same.
for the travel
Just
form,
magma
because
it
I
all
see
up.
no way the Dark
Very
Iron
cool.
would come all the way to the Dragon Isles, see these bad boys, and not be like, yes, I will become that. Inferno Hawk
Yeah,
for
yeah,
travel,
just everything
Primal
lava,
Flame
fire.
Saber
Wow,
for
that's
cat,
actually
and
badass.
a Stone Guardian for bear form, because they're right there. I'm sure they have
Very
stones
cool.
in Emerald Dream. Stones are just as lore-friendly as Wicker. You can't tell me otherwise. And balance would be an Earthen Defender again, but like fire.
Magma,
Draenei could take their forms from 3 different planets, which is wild, but let's
They
try
gotta
and
go with the
focus on
Elec,
Argus
right?
where we can. So, Chitimbucks or Crag Scalers for travel, Skyfins for flight, Panthara for cat form, and there is so many cool recolors of these, they're awesome. But then, Bear and Balance, I admit, is the only time I have come up short in this video. If you have
Go
any
with the
suggestions,
elk.
let me know, but I honestly think the best bet is coming back to Azeroth for these and going the variations on a classic route. Standard bears and boomkin, just with little Draenei embellishments. They've all got little hooves, I don't know.
You gotta go with the
Lightforge have
Elec,
exactly
man.
the same, except glowy, and instead
It's
of
not-
bear,
I don't think it's
they
that
have
hard. I don't know why he's
Departos,
not
obviously,
suggesting
which
that.
brings us to the trio that made me want to make this video in the first place. Gnome, Mechanome, and Goblin. Ian's example for a race that doesn't really fit with the concept
the
of
Transformers,
Druids. And
man,
I
I'm
know
telling
what you all want me to suggest here. You want
Yeah, for
mechs.
you. Yes. Oh, yeah. This is what I'm talking about. He had the same idea as me. Holy shit. Yeah, humans are just standard, but add like a human, like a lion tattoo on their shoulder or something.
Suits.
Oh, hi guys. Fancy seeing you here of all places. It's funny because I was just thinking about you and how I really
Saving
wanted
the
to
best
tell
till
you
last,
that you
yeah.
were looking great. We should really get lunch, and
The
that
Mechanomes
this
would
video is
certainly be the
sponsored by
coolest.
Squarespace. Speaking of lunch, Tally and I were recently out celebrating our anniversary, and as he was sitting across
If
from
they
me,
could
looking
add
like the snack
a
he
sound
is,
every time a Mechanome turns into a different druidic form, a transformation sound, like I said, like the Transformers one. You guys know what I'm talking about, that... You know, that fucking... I keep doing it horribly.
No, of course I wasn't
But just
being
imagine
that
it.
silly.
It would be so
I was looking
badass.
at my utterly dashing husband and thinking, it's
Yeah,
time
I
we
know,
monetized
horrible
this.
imitation, I
So,
know.
allow me to introduce to you, thanks to
me see.
Squarespace, Tally Fans, the exclusive members-only section of TNE.tv. Take your pick of the foxiest photo sets, the Tally looking like a snack over a nice meal set, the vintage drama school headshot set, and my personal favorite, the baths and fancy hotels set. It's a good one. Thankfully, members
There it
areas
is.
are
There it
so
is. There it is. This sound. Yeah, I don't know why that like it sounds like they're eating a baguette at the end of that. I don't know what the hell's going on with the French theme at the bottom of that sound. But yeah, imagine a Mechanome. You're in a fucking dungeon, and he's about to start tanking. After you finish eating, and you hear this. I mean, that's
easy
Perfect.
to set up. I mean, I literally
So
did this on
badass.
my phone
French
under the
forms.
table while Tally was
Yeah,
telling me
I
how
don't know
nice
why
I
that
looked or
sounded
something. Just flip the
sounded
switch
like
to get started, then name your space and
Literally
choose a
every comment in the
subscription
comment
fee.
section
You can
says
even
why the
make it
music at the end.
free, but like, why? Follow the checklist to get some juicy content published and
Wet
boom,
fart.
finished. Profit.
Oh, hey, is Tally Fans live?
Sure is. Wanna look?
Yeah.
That'll be $5. Members only, babe. Keen to cordon off your own members only space? Set it up with a free trial on Squarespace. And when you're ready to go public, private, go to squarespace.com/taliesinevitale or use code taliesinevitale to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/taliesinevitale. Oh yeah, sorry. These are just for me. And you if you've got $5. Okay, $3, final offer.
They can't become animals, so they build animals. It's not a million miles away from the Kultiran forms. It's what Goblin
Very cool.
Shaman do. There's tons of cool concepts out there to draw from, and I love the idea. Usually, I would be a...
Yeah, maybe instead of getting a Tinker class, you finally get something like this. You know, the mecha suit as their tanking form. That could happen.
strong advocate of it. But in the way we've described the playable races becoming druids in 10.2, spending loads of time in the dream, defending it, and being blessed by Cenarius, I don't think mech suits actually work. It's more of a class skin idea, that one. Like, how do these races become the equivalent of druids? But in this scenario, they are actually becoming bona fide druids.
They gotta
fine.
transform.
Mechanomes can have robot stuff because they are made of robot anyway.
Yeah.
Mechanized crawler, travel, wonder wing flight, Mechagon, Robocat, mechanical gorilla for the tank,
Good,
I
yeah.
went there,
Yeah,
and
that's pretty
Mechamon
cool.
as the laser shooting iron giant balance form. You can have those,
Easy.
but I really think that gnome and goblin should
You forgot
be
the submarine, but the submarine's a guarantee.
biological forms. These, after all, are the members of those races who actually have found joy and connection in nature. I think we owe it to them to let them become proper druids and not find a class skin workaround in this case. However, if you think I'm not going to make all gnome forms just baby versions of the standard, then you don't know me very well. So they get Pine Gray's calf travel form, chicken flight form, kitten cat form, bear cub tank form, and moonkin hatchling for balance, which you can replace with, and you're going to love this, a penguin. A penguin who really loves the moon. A moon penguin. You probably have to
The
bump
gnome
these
is
models
actually
up
easier
in
than I
scale.
thought. Just all the baby forms.
They
Yeah.
don't disappear in a crowd, but the concept is very important to me. I will fight you for the bear cub tank. And lastly,
That's easy.
goblins. I struggled with these, not because their forms were difficult to think of. A common concept you see online is that they would become scavenger type animals, and I was really into this idea
but
at first. I landed on
vultures.
seagull flight form, a raccoon cat form, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
But when I
like
got to the travel form,
city-dwelling animals, basically.
even the bear form, the obvious thing in my head was to use that beautiful rat scallion.
What did I
model
say?
for
They have
one
to
of
be a
them.
rat.
And that actually made me pause. Okay, so the thing is, people hate acknowledging this, but I personally can't ignore the fact that goblins in WoW and fantasy in general, consciously or unconsciously, do tend to draw on a particularly nasty and dangerous racial stereotype, which I think it's always good to be aware of so you can avoid it if you can. In Blizzard's case, that stereotype is obviously being used unconsciously, and in recent time when they have become conscious of it, they've generally worked very hard to specifically avoid that stereotype when it comes to goblins.
Okay, we
and
gotta
that's
watch
great.
out, guys.
Bravo.
Gotta be
But
careful
I
now.
don't think having goblins turn into literal rats would be a good idea. I don't think we're quite there yet, and if you think that's being the fun police, don't blame me. It's not me ruining your fun, it's harmful racist tropes in fantasy. But anyway, yeah, I decided to look towards goblins' tropical origins instead. So we've got
That's true, they are an
pterodactyls for travel,
island-dwelling
pterodact
race, yeah.
scavengers for flight, the ancient island turtle for bear form. I really like to see a new high-res monkey
Oh
model
my
for
god.
feral, honestly. That'd be
Oh my god. Oh, this thing is hideous. What the hell? This thing made of like 2 polygons? What is this thing? Holy shit, this is in the game? The fuck is this? This looks like something out of like you'd seen a Nintendo DS or something. Oh my god.
Those animals can be
Fucking-
found on the Lost Isles,
Ugh.
which is part of the Goblin starting experience. And
Whoa.
I don't know why, but I really want a
Yeah,
quill ball for their
wokeism's gonna
balance
take
form.
away your,
They don't really
the
worship
rat, I'm
the
sorry.
sun or the moon.
He's
but
probably right, they probably
are
wouldn't do it.
geomancers. They shape the earth and manipulate fauna.
Yeah, that's
and
terrifying.
That's
Stuff
totally
of
a moon
nightmares,
dream,
that
okay?
monkey.
They can
Oh my
totally
God.
make that work. So yes, please, can I have a quill ball for the balance form? Please, thank you. And there you have it. The race that Ian used as the example of one that would need explaining to make works. If Goblin heroes have spent a whole patch jumping in and out of the dream to defend it from attack, if they saw the power and the majesty of nature and life in the meantime, if they were blessed by Cenarius upon victory, why wouldn't a handful of goblins abandon their industrious ways and
I could
branch out into new areas? Oh, and Drakthir, don't worry, I haven't forgotten you. Flight form, Drakthir. Travel form, Drakthir. Bear form, Black Dragon. Balance form, Green Dragon. Cat form, Otter. Well done, Dorks, you got a new class. But what do you think? Is Druids for All a feasible premise? What do you think of my form choices? I want to hear your suggestions on this, so let us know in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today.
Could be a
if you like this video, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real-life money to make all of our work happen. And patrons, seriously, thank you. Because without you, there would be a whole lot less.
Yeah, the Drakthir got screwed.
If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is... who's a famous druid? Let me think. Taliesin? No, that won't work. Bye.
Yeah. I think I'd make a gnome and I'd name him Noptimus Prime. Noptimus Prime.